The summer of 2023 in Maplewood, a charming Seattle suburb, smelled of cedar and freshly cut grass. Emily Harper stood in her kitchen, sunlight streaming through the wide windows of their craftsman home, painting golden streaks across the oak countertops. At 44, she still felt the flutter of her 20-something self when she looked at the life she and Michael had built. Their love story began in a rainy University of Washington lecture hall, where Michael, with his easy grin and knack for making economics sound romantic, had stolen her heart. They married at 24, promising each other a life of adventure, love, and unshakable partnership. 2 decades later, that promise held firm. Emily sipped her coffee, smiling at the yellow Post-it note stuck to her mug. "You're my sunrise, M. Michael." Michael left one every morning, a habit that never grew old. Today's note was tucked beside a doodle of a heart pierced by an arrow, as if he were still the college boy wooing her. She traced the ink with her fingertip, her heart swelling. Michael was out showing a Queen Anne condo to a tech mogul, his charisma as a real estate agent sealing deals as effortlessly as it had won her over. Their life wasn't perfect. Bills piled up, kids tested patience, but it was theirs, vibrant and full. In the living room, Sophie, their 16-year-old daughter, sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Her auburn curls bounced as she laughed at a video, her spirited energy a mirror of Michael's. Ethan, 14, sat at the dining table, sketching in his notebook, his quiet focus a reflection of Emily's introspective nature. The kids were their greatest adventure, each a blend of their parents' strengths and quirks. Emily glanced at them, her chest tightening with gratitude. This was home, messy, loud, and irrevocably hers. The doorbell chimed, shattering her reverie. Emily frowned, not expecting anyone. She opened the door to find Ryan, Michael's younger brother, leaning against the frame, his designer sunglasses glinting in the sun. At 39, Ryan was a tech entrepreneur who'd made a small fortune with a startup nobody understood, including Emily. His tailored blazer and sly grin screamed confidence, but there was always something unpredictable about him, like a storm cloud disguised as a summer day. Hope I'm not crashing anything," Ryan said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. He carried a bottle of expensive Pinot Noir, the kind Michael loved, but Emily found pretentious. "Thought I'd swing by. Miss my favorite family." Emily forced a smile. "Always good to see you, Ryan. Michael's at a showing, but he'll be back soon." Ryan waved a hand, already heading for the kitchen. "No worries, I'll keep you company. Sophie, Ethan, Uncle Ryan's here." His voice boomed, filling the house with an energy that felt both magnetic and intrusive. Sophie bounded over, hugging Ryan. "Tell me about that VR thing you're working on. Is it like Matrix-level cool?" Ethan looked up from his sketch, offering a shy nod. Ryan had a way with the kids, his flashy stories and tech gadgets winning them over. Emily watched, a pang of unease settling in her stomach. Ryan was family, but his presence always shifted the air, like a radio tune just off the station. As Ryan poured himself a coffee, unprompted, he leaned against the counter, his eyes sweeping the kitchen. "Man, Mike's got it made. This house, you, the kids. It's like a damn postcard. I'd kill for this setup." His tone was light, but his gaze lingered on Emily a beat too long, making her skin prickle. She busied herself wiping the counter. "We're lucky. It's not perfect, but it's ours." "Lucky, huh?" Ryan smirked, sipping his coffee. "Mike's the lucky one. A wife like you. Most guys would be tripping over themselves to lock that down." The compliment felt off, like a gift wrapped in barbed wire. Emily's smile faltered, but she nodded, unsure how to respond. The moment passed, but it left a residue. Ryan stayed for an hour, regaling Sophie with tales of Silicon Valley parties and dropping hints about a new app that had changed the world. When he left, promising to join their 4th of July BBQ, Emily felt the house exhale. She tucked Michael's Post-it note into a drawer, a small ritual to preserve his words, and tried to shake the unease Ryan left behind. The 4th of July BBQ was Maplewood at its finest. String lights crisscrossed the backyard, casting a warm glow over picnic tables laden with potato salad, burgers, and Emily's famous blackberry cobbler. Neighbors mingled, kids chased fireflies, and Michael manned the grill, his laughter carrying over the hum of conversation. Emily moved through the crowd, refilling drinks and swapping stories, her sundress swaying as she played the perfect hostess. This was their life. Community, connection, love woven into every moment. Ryan arrived late, pulling up in a sleek Tesla that turned heads. He strode into the backyard, a bottle of bourbon in hand, and was instantly swarmed by neighbors eager to hear about his latest venture. Emily watched from the patio, noting how Ryan commanded attention, his charm a sharper, flashier version of Michael's. He caught her eye and winked, raising his glass. She nodded, forcing a smile, but her stomach twisted. Something about Ryan's presence felt like a shadow creeping over the sunlit scene. As the night wore on, Michael pulled Emily into a slow dance under the lights, humming along to a Springsteen song. 20 years, Em, he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. Still the best decision I ever made. She melted into him, the world fading to just the two of them. You're not so bad yourself, Harper. They laughed, swaying, unaware of Ryan watching from the edge of the crowd, his smile tight, his eyes unreadable. Later, as fireworks burst overhead, Ryan clinked a spoon against his glass, drawing everyone's attention. A toast, he called, his voice cutting through the chatter. To Michael and Emily, the couple who makes the rest of us jealous, 20 years of perfection. Here's to 20 more. She erupted, but Ryan wasn't done. He turned to Michael, his grin sharp. But Mike, if you ever screw this up, or, God forbid, check out early, I'm ready to step in for Emily. Gotta keep this fairy tale going, right? He laughed, but the words landed like a stone in a still pond, rippling unease through the crowd. Emily's breath caught, her cheeks burning. Guests exchanged awkward glances, some chuckling nervously, others sipping their drinks to avoid eye contact. Michael laughed, clapping Ryan on the shoulder. Easy, bro. You're not stealing my girl that fast. The crowd relaxed, but Emily felt a chill, as if the July air had turned to frost. Ryan's eyes met hers, and for a split second, she saw something, amusement, maybe? Or something darker. It vanished as he raised his glass again, but the moment seared itself into her mind. Was it a joke? A challenge? She couldn't tell, and that uncertainty gnawed at her. That night, after the guests left and the kids were asleep, Emily sat on the edge of their bed, brushing her hair, her mind replaying Ryan's toast. Michael emerged from the bathroom, towel around his waist, and caught her pensive expression in the mirror. What's up, Em? You've got that look. She hesitated, then set the brush down. Ryan's toast tonight. It felt off, like he was trying to say something without saying it. Did you hear how he phrased it? Michael chuckled, sitting beside her. Ryan's just being Ryan. He's got that edgy humor, thinks it makes him cool. Don't overthink it, babe. But it wasn't funny, Emily pressed, her voice soft but firm. It felt personal, like he was testing us, or me. Michael sighed, pulling her close. He's my little brother, Em. He's all flash, no substance sometimes. Probably had one too many bourbons. Let it go, okay? Emily nodded, resting her head against his chest, but the unease lingered. Michael's heartbeat was steady, reassuring, but it couldn't drown out the whisper of doubt Ryan's words had planted. She wanted to believe it was nothing, but her gut told her otherwise. Over the next few months, Ryan became a fixture in their lives, his visits unannounced and frequent. He'd show up with takeout from a trendy Seattle restaurant, claiming he was just in the neighborhood, or drop by to help with Sophie's college applications. His charm disarmed the kids, who hung on his stories of tech moguls and private jets. But Emily noticed how Ryan's presence shifted the family's dynamic, like a guest who overstayed and started rearranging the furniture. One evening, as they planned a spring break trip to the Oregon coast, Ryan joined the discussion, uninvited. Emily suggested a quiet cabin in Cannon Beach, but Ryan cut in, his tone casual but dismissive. Nah, you guys need something flashier. A resort in Maui. Sophie'd love the vibe, right, Soph? Sophie's eyes lit up. Totally. Maui sounds epic. She glanced at Ryan, then at Emily, as if seeking his approval over her mother's. Emily's heart sank, the sting of being sidelined in her own family sharp and unexpected. Maui's out of budget, Emily said, keeping her voice even. Cannon Beach is more our speed. Ryan shrugged, smirking. You're lucky Mike's got the steady gig, Em. Keeps you grounded. The words sounded like a compliment, but they cut, implying her worth was tied to Michael's paycheck. She forced a smile, but the room felt smaller, her voice quieter. At dinner that night, Ryan dominated the conversation, pitching ideas for Ethan's school science fair project while Emily's suggestion, a solar-powered model, was brushed aside. That's cute, Em, but Ethan needs something that'll win, Ryan said, winking at Ethan, who nodded eagerly. Emily's fork paused midair, her chest tightening. She looked to Michael, hoping he'd notice, but he was engrossed in his phone, texting a client about a $1,200,000 0 cents listing. After Ryan left, Emily cleared the table in silence, the clink of plates louder than her thoughts. Sophie and Ethan retreated to their rooms, leaving her alone with the weight of the evening. She opened the drawer where she kept Michael's post-it notes, seeking comfort, but her eyes fell on a new one. You are my rock, Em. Em. The words felt hollow tonight, as if her role as the family's anchor was slipping through her fingers. The unease grew, subtle but persistent, like a crack in a foundation. Ryan's backhanded compliments became a pattern. At a neighborhood potluck, he remarked, Emily's got it easy with Mike running the show. Not everyone can pull off the stay-at-home vibe. Neighbors laughed, but Emily felt exposed, reduced to a stereotype she'd never claimed. She'd left her graphic design job years ago to focus on the kids, a choice she'd once been proud of. But Ryan's words twisted it into something trivial. Worse, Sophie's reliance on Ryan deepened. When Emily suggested she apply to a local art program, Sophie hesitated, saying, Uncle Ryan thinks I should focus on STEM. He says it's where the money is. Emily's throat tightened, the betrayal sharp, not from Sophie, but from the way Ryan's influence was eroding her authority as a mother. Michael, consumed by a high-stakes deal to sell a waterfront property, remained oblivious. One night, as they lay in bed, Emily tried again. Michael Ryan's different lately. He's not just visiting. He's taking over, like he's trying to run our family. Michael rubbed his eyes, exhausted. He's just trying to be involved. He's got no kids, no wife. Maybe he's lonely. Cut him some slack. But it's not just that, Emily said, her voice trembling. He's making me feel invisible, like I'm only here because of you. Michael pulled her close, kissing her forehead. You're not invisible, Em. You're everything. Ryan's just loud. Ignore him. Emily nodded, but the words didn't soothe her. She stared at the ceiling, the shadows shifting in the moonlight, and felt a quiet dread. Ryan's charm was a mask, she was sure of it. But for what? Was he jealous of Michael's success? Did he resent their happiness? Or was it something more calculated, something she couldn't yet see? The turning point came at a family dinner in late August. Emily had spent hours preparing a lasagna, a recipe her mother had passed down, hoping to reclaim a sense of normalcy. The table was set with care, candles flickering, but Ryan arrived uninvited, a bottle of craft IPA in hand. Smells amazing, Em, he said, sliding into a chair. Mike's lucky you've got time to play chef. The comment stung, but Emily let it pass. As they ate, she shared an idea for a community garden project she'd been researching, her voice bright with enthusiasm. Before she could finish, Ryan cut in, laughing. "That's sweet, Em, but it's a lot of work for something nobody'll notice. Stick to what you're good at, keeping this place running." The table went quiet. Sophie giggled nervously. Ethan stared at his plate, and Michael, distracted by a text, missed the jab entirely. Emily's face burned, the humiliation searing. She wanted to snap back, to demand respect, but the words caught in her throat. Ryan's eyes met hers, a flicker of satisfaction in them, as if he knew he'd won. That night, alone in the kitchen, Emily stood over the sink, scrubbing dishes until her hands ached. The house was silent, but her mind roared. Ryan wasn't just charming or unpredictable, he was deliberate, chipping away at her place in her own family. She thought of his toast at the BBQ, his frequent visits, his subtle dismissals. Each moment felt like a piece of a puzzle. But the picture was still blurry. What does he want? Why her? She opened the drawer, pulling out Michael's latest post-it, "Forever yours, M." The words steadied her, but only for a moment. As she tucked it away, she noticed a folded piece of paper that wasn't Michael's handwriting. It was a receipt from a downtown Seattle bar, dated last week, with Ryan's name and a scribbled note. "Meet Ree, M's deal, 8 p.m. Her heart skipped. Michael hadn't mentioned meeting Ryan about work. Was it a coincidence? Or something more? Emily slipped the receipt into her pocket, her pulse quickening. She didn't know what it meant, but it felt like a clue, a thread to pull. Ryan's shadow was growing, and she couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was coming. Something that would test her strength, her marriage, her very sense of self. And as the summer light faded, Emily Harper felt the first stirrings of a fight she didn't yet understand. The morning of February 12, 2024, began like any other in the Harper household. Emily stood in the kitchen, the scent of brewing coffee mingling with the crisp Seattle air seeping through the cracked window. Michael, dressed in a sharp blazer for a client meeting, scribbled a post-it note, "You make every day brighter, M. M." He stuck it to her mug, kissed her forehead, and flashed his trademark grin. "Big day, babe. That waterfront listing's mine." Emily smiled, brushing a speck of lint from his collar. "Knock 'em dead, Harper." He winked, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. Sophie and Ethan were already out, Sophie at a debate club practice, Ethan at a friend's for a group project. The house felt quiet, almost too quiet, as Emily sipped her coffee, savoring Michael's note. She had no idea it would be the last morning of her old life. An hour later, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Michael's office. She answered, expecting a quick update on his meeting. Instead, a trembling voice. His assistant, Jenna, choked out. "Emily, it's Michael. He collapsed. Paramedics are here, but it's bad. You need to come. Swedish Medical now." The mug slipped from Emily's hand, shattering on the tile floor. Her world tilted, the edges blurring. She grabbed her keys, her coat, and drove through Seattle's gray drizzle, her heart pounding like a war drum. At the hospital, a doctor met her in the ER, his face grim. "Mrs. Harper, I'm so sorry. Michael suffered a massive stroke. We couldn't revive him. He was gone before he reached us." Emily's knees buckled. The doctor's words echoed, hollow and unreal. Michael, her Michael, vibrant, unstoppable, only 45, was gone. Just like that. No warning, no goodbye, only a void where her life had been. She sank into a plastic chair, the hospital's fluorescent lights burning her eyes, and let the grief swallow her whole. The days that followed were a fog of pain and paperwork. Emily moved through them mechanically, her body present but her soul adrift. Sophie clung to her, sobbing, while Ethan retreated into silence, his sketches darker, more jagged. Friends and neighbors flooded the house with casseroles and condolences, their hugs warm but fleeting. Emily felt like a ghost in her own home, haunting the spaces where Michael's laughter once lived. Ryan stepped in with an efficiency that bordered on eerie. He arrived the day after Michael's death, his Tesla idling in the driveway, and took charge. You don't need to deal with this," he said, his voice smooth as polished stone. "Let me handle the arrangements. You focus on the kids." His eyes, usually sharp with ambition, softened just enough to seem sincere. Exhausted and broken, Emily nodded, grateful for any anchor in the storm. Ryan orchestrated a funeral fit for a king, held at St. James Cathedral, a grand Seattle landmark with soaring arches and stained glass windows. The pews filled with Michael's clients, colleagues, and Maplewood neighbors, their faces a blur of sympathy. Emily sat in the front row, Sophie and Ethan on either side, her black dress heavy against her skin. The priest's words washed over her, distant and meaningless as she stared at Michael's photo on the altar, his grin frozen in time, a cruel reminder of what she'd lost. At the graveside in Lakeview Cemetery, the February wind cut through Emily's coat as mourners gathered around Michael's mahogany casket. She clutched a single white rose, its thorns pricking her palm, grounding her in the surreal pain. Sophie leaned against her, tears streaking her face, while Ethan stared at the ground, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. Emily tried to focus on the minister's prayer, but her mind drifted to Michael's last post-it, now tucked in her purse like a talisman. Movement caught her eye. Ryan stepped forward, his tailored suit stark against the gray sky. Before she could process it, he dropped to one knee in front of her, right there at the grave, in front of everyone. Friends, family, strangers. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath that sucked the air from Emily's lungs. Ryan pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, revealing a diamond ring that glinted like a weapon. "Emily," he said, his voice loud enough to carry. "Michael would have wanted you to be cared for. I know this is sudden, but I can't let you face this alone. Marry me." The world stopped. Emily's heart thundered, her vision narrowing to Ryan's face, his solemn expression, his eyes gleaming with something she couldn't name. Shock paralyzed her, her lips parting but no sound emerging. Whispers rippled through the mourners, some horrified, others curious, their eyes boring into her like spotlights. Sophie's grip tightened on her arm, Ethan's head snapped up, and Emily felt the weight of their stares, her grief twisted into a public spectacle. She wanted to scream, to shove the ring back at him, to demand why he'd chosen this moment to humiliate her. But her voice was gone, stolen by the raw wound of Michael's death. Ryan stayed on his knee, the ring outstretched, his face a mask of sincerity that didn't reach his eyes. Finally, a cousin stepped forward, muttering about giving Emily space, and Ryan stood, pocketing the ring with a regretful nod. The crowd dispersed, but the damage was done. Emily's dignity lay shattered at Michael's grave. The wake was held at the Harper home, the same backyard where 4th of July BBQs once sparkled, now heavy with grief. Emily moved through the crowd, accepting hugs and murmured condolences, her face a mask of composure. Inside, she was unraveling, Ryan's proposal replaying like a nightmare. Why? Why now, in front of everyone? Was it a cruel joke, a power play, or something worse? Needing air, she slipped into the hallway, leaning against the wall, her eyes closed. Voices drifted from the living room. Ryan's, smooth and authoritative, speaking to a group of Michael's closest friends, Tom and Lisa from the neighborhood, and Sarah, a colleague. Emily froze, her breath shallow as Ryan's words cut through the haze. "Emily's too fragile to cope alone," he said, his tone dripping with false concern. "Michael was her whole world. Without him, she's lost. Emotionally, financially, you name it. I'm stepping in to manage things, make sure she doesn't fall apart." Lisa murmured agreement, her voice soft. "Poor thing. It's good you're here, Ryan. She needs someone strong right now." Emily's face burned, humiliation and betrayal twisting like a knife. Ryan wasn't just undermining her, he was rewriting her story, painting her as a helpless widow to the people who'd known her for years. She wanted to storm in, to scream that she wasn't fragile, that she'd raised 2 kids, managed a home, and loved Michael through every storm, but her feet wouldn't move. Grief and shame anchored her, silencing her voice. Sophie appeared, her eyes red. "Mom, people are asking for you." Emily forced a nod, swallowing the tears threatening to spill. "I'll be there," she whispered, her voice barely audible. As Sophie returned to the crowd, Emily pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the sharp edge of Michael's post-it in her purse. She wasn't broken, not yet, but Ryan was betting she would be. In the weeks that followed, Ryan's grip tightened. He moved into the guest room, claiming it was temporary to help with the kids and estate. Emily, drowning in grief, didn't protest, but his presence suffocated her. He took over Michael's $2,500,000 0-cents estate with chilling efficiency, redirecting bank statements to his email, changing account passwords, and meeting with Michael's financial advisor without her. "You're too distraught, Em," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "Let me handle the numbers. You focus on healing." Emily tried to resist, but exhaustion betrayed her. She wasn't sleeping, barely eating, her days a blur of empty routines. Sophie and Ethan, grappling with their own grief, leaned on Ryan, who became their confidant. Sophie shared college plans with him. Ethan showed him sketches, and Emily watched, her role as mother slipping away. When she suggested Sophie apply to a local university, Ryan countered, "She needs an Ivy League, Em. I've got connections." Sophie nodded, eyes on Ryan, and Emily felt invisible. Ryan's influence spread beyond the family. Neighbors stopped by less, their visits replaced by pitying glances and whispers about poor Emily. At a community meeting, Sarah patted her hand, saying, "You're so lucky Ryan's here. Not everyone has family like that." Emily's smile was brittle, her heart screaming that Ryan wasn't family. He was a thief, stealing her agency, her home, her life. The breaking point came 3 weeks after the funeral. Ryan called a family meeting in the living room, his demeanor formal, almost corporate. Sophie sat beside him, Ethan across, both looking to Ryan as if he were the head of the house. Emily stood by the fireplace, her arms crossed, a flicker of defiance stirring beneath her grief. "Em, we need to talk about next steps," Ryan began, folding his hands like a CEO. "This house, it's too big for you alone. The maintenance, the taxes, the memories, it's overwhelming. I've spoken to Michael's lawyer, and I think you should take a break. Maybe stay with your cousin in Portland for a few months. I'll manage the estate, keep things in order." Emily's jaw tightened. The house wasn't just brick and mortar. It was Michael's garden, the kids' height marks on the doorframe, the kitchen where they danced to old jazz records. "You want me to leave my home?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. Ryan's smile was patronizing. "No one's forcing you, Em, but it's what Michael would have wanted. Peace for you. The kids agree it's too much right now." He glanced at Sophie, who nodded hesitantly, and Ethan, who stared at the floor. Emily looked to her children, searching for an ally, but their silence cut deeper than Ryan's words. The room closed in, her pulse roaring. Ryan wasn't just managing, he was erasing her, convincing everyone she was too weak to stand. She saw it now, the proposal, the pity, the takeover. It was a script, and she was the pawn. Without a word, she turned and climbed the stairs. In her bedroom, she packed a duffel bag, jeans, sweaters, Michael's journal, his post-its. She scrawled a note on a scrap of paper. "I'm not broken. I need space." She left it on the kitchen counter, grabbed her keys, and drove into the night, the Seattle skyline fading in her rearview mirror. She wasn't running away. She was running towards something. Herself. Emily drove south, the highway blurring through tears, until she reached a foggy coastal town in Oregon called Depew Bay. She'd visited it with Michael years ago, a weekend escape where they'd laughed over clam chowder and promised to return. Now, alone, she checked into a rundown motel, its neon sign flickering, vacancy. The room smelled of mildew. The bed creaked, but it was hers. No Ryan, no pity, just silence. For days, she unraveled. She skipped meals, her body hollow, her mind replaying Michael's death, Ryan's proposal, Sophie's nod. She wandered the beach at night, Michael's old flannel wrapped around her, the waves roaring her grief. Dark thoughts crept in, not dramatic, but quiet, insidious. What was left for her? A widow at 44, a mother sidelined, a woman erased. The mirror showed a stranger, pale, gaunt, her once vibrant eyes dull with defeat. On the fifth morning, desperate for warmth, she walked to a coffee shop down the street. The barista, a young woman with a nose ring, smiled as she handed Emily her latte, the cup scrawled with "Strong Woman" in Sharpie. The words hit like a lifeline, piercing the numbness. Emily sat by the window, clutching the cup, and felt a spark. Small, fragile, but real. That night, she bought a notebook from a gas station and wrote. Pages of rage, grief, love, fear, raw, unfiltered, her voice clawing its way back. She wrote about Michael's laugh, Sophie's curls, Ethan's quiet strength, and Ryan's betrayal. The act felt like defiance, a refusal to vanish. One evening, sorting through her bag, she pulled out Michael's leather journal, the one he'd carried on their trips. She'd avoided it, afraid of the pain, but something urged her to open it. Inside, tucked between pages, was an envelope with her name, in Michael's handwriting. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the letter, dated January 28, 2024, days before his death. It began, if you're reading this. I'm gone, and I'm sorry I didn't tell you in person. I've had a bad feeling about Ryan. He's been pushing into our finances, asking about the will, the house, you. I don't trust him. I set up a $3.00 M trust in your name, Sophie's, and Ethan's. Ryan gets nothing. The lawyer, Lisa Grayson in Tacoma, has a sealed note with proof of his meetings with a shady attorney to siphon funds. Don't let him make you small, Em. You're stronger than you know. I love you forever. M. Emily's breath hitched, tears blurring the ink. Michael had seen it. Ryan's greed, his ambition. A second note, marked for lawyer only, listed dates, names, and a bank account Ryan had tried to access. The truth was a thunderbolt. Ryan hadn't just exploited her grief. He'd planned to steal their legacy before Michael died. The next morning, Emily drove to Tacoma, Michael's letter clutched like a shield. Lisa Grayson's office was a sleek brick building, its quiet authority a stark contrast to Emily's rumpled sweater and sleepless eyes. Lisa, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, pulled a file from a locked drawer. Michael was thorough, she said, sliding documents across the desk. Ryan tried to forge papers, claiming you were mentally unstable, but the trust is ironclad. You own everything, the $2.50 M estate, the $3.00 M trust, the house. He failed. Emily's hands shook as she read the evidence. Emails, bank logs, a recorded call where Ryan pressured Michael's advisor to expedite asset transfers. He'd even met a lawyer in a downtown bar. The receipt Emily found in Chapter 1, plotting to siphon funds. The audacity stunned her, but it also ignited something. Ryan had bet on her weakness, but he'd underestimated her. She rented a small apartment in Bellevue using trust funds Lisa released. It was sparse, a couch, a bed, a coffee maker, but it was hers. She took a part-time job at a cozy bookstore, shelving novels and chatting with customers, each interaction rebuilding her confidence. At night, she strategized, working with Lisa to lock Ryan out. She changed passwords, rerouted accounts, and blocked his access to the estate's financial portal. His credit cards, tied to a joint account, began failing. Bank logins denied him. Notifications went to Lisa, not him. Ryan's panic was palpable, even from a distance. Lisa reported his frantic calls to lawyers, accountants, even Michael's old clients searching for a loophole. Sophie texted, "Uncle Ryan says the will's been tampered with. Are you okay?" Emily didn't reply. Let him squirm. Let them wonder. Then came Lisa's bombshell. Ryan had listed the Harper home for sale, forging Emily's signature on a power of attorney form. The deal, worth $1,800,000, 0 cents, was days from closing. Fury surged, but Emily stayed calm. She instructed Lisa to freeze the sale, file fraud charges, and compile a dossier. Every email, every forgery, every lie. 2 months after leaving, Emily returned. She drove through Maplewood's familiar streets, the cherry blossoms now bare, and parked in her driveway. The house looked the same, but it felt different. Hers, not Ryan's. She walked in, her boots clicking on the hardwood, and found Ryan in the living room, mid-call, his voice sharp with frustration. "What do you mean, denied? Check again." He froze when he saw her, his phone slipping. "Emily? Where the hell have you been? We've been worried sick." She raised a hand, her voice steady. "Save it." She set the dossier on the coffee table, its weight a silent accusation. "You tried to steal Michael's estate, forged my signature, told everyone I was too weak to function. I have the trust, the logs, your emails, everything. I don't need a confession, Ryan. I need you gone." His face reddened, his jaw clenching. "Em, you're upset. You've been through too much." "No," she cut in, her eyes blazing. "You used my grief to take what's mine. You manipulated my kids, my friends, my life. It's over." She stepped closer, her voice low, lethal. "Leave, or I file fraud charges tomorrow." Ryan's bravado crumbled. He opened his mouth, then closed it, the fight draining from him. He grabbed his jacket and stormed out, the door slamming behind him. Emily stood still, the silence settling like a victory. She walked to the kitchen, put on the kettle, and inhaled the familiar scent of home. It was hers again. That night, Lisa emailed the final piece. A bank transfer Ryan attempted the day before Michael's death, blocked by Michael's last-minute trust amendment. The truth was clear. Ryan hadn't just betrayed her. He'd schemed for years. Emily forwarded the dossier to Sophie and Ethan. No note, just facts. Their calls came hours later, tearful, apologetic, but Emily wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. She'd reclaimed her voice, her home, her worth. The rest would come in time. Standing in Michael's garden, Emily touched the rosemary bush he'd loved, its scent sharp and alive. The wind stirred his old wind chime, a soft melody breaking the silence. She wasn't the widow Ryan had tried to erase. She was Emily Harper, and she was enough.